that it was something that I had to work through in the beginning of my career. It was really interesting. I was like, what does that mean to dress up? What does it mean etiquette? Back in the day, I didn't have texting and other things like that. But I did understand that professionalism is really demonstrating that competence, right? The competence, the integrity, the respect behavior, and the way that you treat each other. Nobody wants to work with people that are not nice. But also that maybe are condescending or accusatory or whatever the case is. So when you think about who you work with and what you do and what's personally important to you, but what others expect, we really want to make sure that your behavior is coming through in that communication. So what you personally believe in the sense of your values, your attitudes, and your knowledge, and what others expect from you. There's certain companies and certain standards that they'll follow in the sense of rules and policies. Like Deborah and Ro and I, we treat each other with respect. And if we have a challenge in any way, we talk about it. And so we talk about like, I don't know if I was preferred what you did today, or I'm not fond of this. So if you look at the bottom, professionalism is how you put your values and outside expectations into action into your daily work. So we know that we can code switch. And so when we talk to our friends, we talk a little bit differently than when we talk to maybe in a professional setting or at a networking event. So really understanding professionalism and etiquette. Back in the day, they used to have like the etiquette dinners. Those were always fun, like how to pass things and what to eat and how to cut your meal or meat or whatever that is, But now it's really just being in a professional state. So this is kind of what we're going to hone in today, especially with the shifting economy. It's how do I get out there and not be in a nuisance to people, be professional, but to build my network in a really aggressive way right now. So y'all want to say anything, or you want to go? I can be the little button. I can be the button pusher. Oh, you have it.
One thing that's really challenging is a lot of times those roles aren't spoken or written down. And so how do you interpret them? How do you prepare to go into a new space and know what the expectation is? So we're going to talk a little bit about just guidelines, general guidelines, maybe some specific for certain situations, but just how can you navigate that? And then just really thinking about how you want to present yourself in those situations. And one of the things that we really look to is what we're hearing from employers is that they want people to work for them that can work with other people. And a lot of what they talk about is we can teach them a lot of the skills, but we want them to be, as Michelle said, kind. We want them to be able to collaborate with people, to be able to communicate with others. And those are some, what we would call soft skills, but employers are looking at those, and those are the things they want. Because then they know if this is someone that can work with my team, that I can work with, that knows how to work through personal or interpersonal challenges, this is someone that we want on our team. And so that's why this is really important. As Michelle referred to, our economy is shifting and the job search is more difficult now, more challenging. And so you have to change your strategies and really think about what are employers looking for? What do I have that I can articulate to them? And that articulation isn't just what we say. It's not just what's on the resume or the CV. It's how we present ourselves as well.
And before we go to the next slide, just a couple of days ago, we were all in a workshop about the employer workshop where they had I believe it was Enterprise and some other ones in the Northwest, but there were a lot of companies and they were talking about how they're shifting from working from home to bringing back everybody in the office. So of course you have to have professionalism, etiquette, policies and rules. And most of these, as Michelle and Deborah said, they're unspoken. However, they're expected of you. So now that the shift is to come back into the office, or at least at the very least hybrid, they do expect you to act a different way, which is different from when you're, in your computer chair at home. So the etiquette and professionalism is something that's going to be looked upon because people know right away, if you don't exude professionalism and etiquette in the first 5-10 seconds of your interview, then they may probably pass on you. That first impression is very quick. So we want to make sure that you're up to date, that you're a competitive applicant. I'll start with appearance a little bit. So first impressions, I just alluded to this. This is really, really important. Whether, whatever stage you are, you always want to be that professional person. It's better to be overdressed and underdressed, especially if you are the applicant. Applicant should be the best dressed person in the room, personally, in my opinion. So that professional appearance does make that first impression. So depending on if your interview is in person or it's online, whatever they're going to see, you know what they're going to see. You want to make sure that that is dressed up in professional attire. So you want to all make sure that the grooming, your background, everything that you're presenting is part of your impression.
Some of the things that the employer said this week that we know, but we want to convey it to you. And we also have recording of that when we went to the employer panel, so we'll share that. And we might have a group session where you all can watch it. But some of the things that they shared is that different generations, especially if they've done a lot from home, may not know how to dress and may not really understand how to not groom themselves, but be in that, whether it be a business casual or a business formal, whatever it is, it's really understanding how your industry will share at their, the way that they dress and so on. Education can be a little bit more casual. I think it just depends. But in the sense of all the other industries, it's really important for you to know. So we put up there on the other side, it's like, look at the occasion that you're going to, assuming that it's a networking event, or if you're just going to your career and your work, is it an official dress code? What is the culture like? What's the physical environment, the weather, and so on? One thing I do want to just share with you, though, is that sometimes if you can just dress for the part that you want, not necessarily the part that you have, then you'll feel yourself getting to that stage of promotion, right? So you want people to take you seriously. So always dress for the position that you want versus the position that you have. And then at the bottom, do your research and then really dress for success. If you're in California, I will share with you, it's a little bit more casual. But if you go to like DC or if you go to the East Coast, it's definitely more formal. And then the clothing is different. A lot of people don't even recognize that the clothing is different. The California clothing is much lighter and thinner. And then the ones on the East Coast are a little bit thicker. The quality is a little bit different because it's darn cold there sometimes or really hot. So keep those things in mind as you think about it. You don't need to go out and spend a lot of money. Like, it's so amazing now how you could just put a few things together and mix and match them. And then also please keep in mind as you start to think about this, ask your friends if they have things they're getting rid of. And also look at like secondhand stores, whether it be thrift stores or consignment stores. But don't put yourself into pressure. But all of you should have something, at least two forms of professional attire for those networking events. So appearance is so important.
One of the things that the employer said is they don't mind if an applicant wears the same thing if they have more than one interview. And they're like, as long as they're professional and they look dressed up, they shouldn't overextend themselves financially, but they appreciate when they come dressed, and it's a sign of respect for the employer. And then also just that you cared enough and you respect their position. And it shows that you really want that job if you're willing to dress up for it. So I think it's very important that there are options of what you can do. And I know there's some clothing closets, I think at one of the other colleges.
They have them at different places, but I think that HMC may have one. I think HMC does, yeah. So, and please, again, you can raise your hand, you can write in the chat, or you can just talk. We want to answer questions as we go. So I can go through this one. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. You don't have to necessarily dress like this. They're just giving you ideas of making sure that there's different things you consider when you're doing that. If the industry is very like vibrant and like you can do colors, do that. But if it's more professional stated industry, then I would definitely go with more business attire. I don't know if people use pantyhose anymore, so that's kind of funny that that's even on there.
East Coast?
Yeah, maybe on the East Coast.
Lawyers?
But you can see here, there's like a collared shirt, there's the tie, there's the suit jacket. So dress up, dress down, it just depends on the situation. But also other things that people don't think about in addition to that is the way that they wear their hair, maybe the way that I've had questions over the years, like, can I wear religious jewelry or not? And that one is, it's a personal decision, but I always like to bring that up. It just depends on where you're applying and I suppose that you have to be okay with who you are as a person and not ever compromise that integrity part of you. I think it will just depend on the industry. So just be cognizant about that. And what else is up there that I couldn't see? I think that's pretty much it. Before we move forward, though, we went through appearance, we were going through attire. What questions do you have for us? Is there anything in the chat? That might be where you guys were coming from. Anybody want to say anything? Recent interview? Oh, this is fantastic.
There's a question in the chat.
There is, okay. Are there certain hairstyles that, I can't read that other word, that are not ideal? That's a really fantastic question. So I have a strong feeling about this. Like if they don't like your hairstyle, it's probably not the place that you're going to want to work either way. It seems a little too rigid for me because what if that's your normal hairstyle? Does that mean you're never going to be able to wear your hair that way? I guess that as long as it's groomed and it doesn't look like you just woke up, I can't begin to tell you how many people I've seen go to an interview and it looks like they just woke up. Please don't do that to yourself or the company. I don't want you to be, X right away.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a thought process.
One of the things you can do is reach out to whoever is scheduling the interview and just ask them, is there a dress code?
Yeah.
Are there guidelines that I can use as to how I come, how I prepare and how I dress for this occasion? So they should be able to tell you if it's business casual or business professional, but they're often really good or sources of information if you have questions about it.
Yeah.
And then once you are hired, I think looking at how are other people dressing in the office and kind of going by that, but also feel free to ask your supervisor if you have questions about how you are dressing or hairstyle. They'll be able to tell you that.
Anybody in this audience?
There's
questions? Any questions?
Are there any studies for people with longer hair about pulling it back? Because I know that sometimes I feel more professional when I have it pulled back. Are there any studies that have shown higher rate of?
Oh,
Laura puts us under pressure. Like I don't know. Hold on, let me pull up my study chart. I suppose we could look at that. That would be really interesting to kind of ask. We could probably use our friend, our AI tool, and ask, are there any studies? Because that would pull that up pretty quickly. That's actually a really good question. Does anyone know that answer? I don't know it offhand, but I'm certainly more than happy to think about it. And
I'm just thinking in professional settings, the more conservative you go,
Yeah.
the more it looks like you spent time grooming, the better impression that you have, right? And so, whether you're putting your hair back, and I'm a cop, right? So this is maybe not the most appropriate person to be telling, I'm assuming for women pulling your hair back. However, from what I've generally seen for professional women is usually if their hair is kept, if their hair is I don't know what the word is, but it looks like it's been worked on. That's what's more important. I don't think it's, whether you have it down, front or back or whatever.
yeah.
And the question, and the question about appropriate hairstyles, Michelle, you alluded to whether that's your natural hair or not.
Yeah.
So depending on, there are certain populations where it's your natural hair. And
Yeah.
so,
Don't change.
that I don't think, now again, you could still be professional. It's whether it's actually, you actually did something with your hair or you didn't. So remember, during interview times, this is not a time to make a personal statement, right? You're trying to get that job. If you want to have your hair a certain way that maybe or maybe does not align with that job or that the company atmosphere or the company culture, then you have to make that choice. actually, if you're making that choice, then maybe it's not best even to go with that interview if you're thinking a certain way. So you just want to make sure at all times you are being professional, right? You are being authentic, but there's a professionalism aspect to being authentic as well. So I know these pictures don't encapsulate everybody and all jobs that we're being applied to. However, there is kind of a standard in your industry on what is professional and what is not professional, right? So I just want to make sure that you have to find out, the appropriate industry standard in your, specific job role that you're applying to. What is that industry standard? And you want to make sure you're meeting it or exceeding it.
I also want to bring up the Crown Act of 2022. I was trying to look to see when it was brought up, but it created a respectful and open world for natural hair. And so they can't discriminate against that, or they shouldn't. One thing that we always like to talk about in this space is ultimately the environment has to fit you. It's not about anybody else but you. And so I want all of you to hear that. If you don't feel comfortable the way that you're being treated, or you're worried about, should I wear my hair this way or that way, it probably isn't the space for you. So just be yourself, but make sure that you are in a space that you've groomed yourself, I guess, is ultimately what we're looking for.
I think,
Yeah, of course.
In terms of like jewelry, I know like I have piercings, and in terms of like I know like my mom always it's unprofessional to have like so many piercings to have a whole show, and so in terms of that, like, is that just like a personal judgment of like, oh, this is how many rings I can wear, and like how many earrings I can have and stuff like that.
Okay, so if you couldn't hear the question, let me repeat it. So Michelle was talking about like piercings, like she has jewelry, whether it be on rings or her ears or whatever, right? And necklaces and so on. And so again, it's gonna reflect on the industry that you're looking on. Some of the things that may trigger people is more of the tongue rings, like the tongue things or the nose ones. But most people now, a lot of people have nose ones. This is you. So again, it's about you. It's not about necessarily them. And if that's the way that you're going to come to work every day, and that's the way you're going to show up every day, let them know who you are. But I would look at the industry, and if it's super conservative, if it's a little bit more liberal, what you have to figure out, are you going to fit in that industry? But I mean, I wear my jewelry every day too. I don't, no one's ever said to me, other than,
Hair down, usually interviews, so like, I mean,
yeah,
it's not bad, it's not like,
Yeah.
like anything crazy or anything, it's just like,
that's,
certain places don't really like allow even acrylic nails or like.
Yeah.
ceramics, so it's like no polishes.
So check your industry. Again, Michelle brought up the point of acrylic nails, and there are some companies that do require your hair to be short, and they require your jewelry to not be on. Like, I know that Disney has always focused on that. So definitely look at the industry and the particular company.
I think for an interview too, you don't want to wear anything that's too distracting.
Yeah.
Because you want them to be focusing on what you're saying in addition to presenting yourself. So I think having more of a conservative approach for jewelry, for hairstyle, for how we're dressing in the interview is more appropriate, because you don't want them the whole time like, oh my gosh, did you see the necklace they wore? Or did you see it? And then they totally miss everything that you said. But I want to go back to what Laura said. You said that you feel more confident or more professional with your hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it's dressing for success means dressing in a way that you feel confident, that you're going in there and you're like, I feel good about how I look, and I feel more confident that I'm presenting myself in a way that shows them my desire to work here, and that I'm able to really have a conversation where they're going to hear me and hear why I feel I'm a good fit.
I know that we're talking a lot about like dress and appearance, but this is a different form of communication. It's the way that you're communicating to others, in the sense that how you lean into this, or how you show up, right? So we're going to send you this slide deck. So we're just going to skip ahead because we kind of already talked about some of this and we have a lot to cover, but please keep asking questions. I can't see the chat, so I just want to make sure that you're asking. I can go through this one. So I went to the dentist this morning, which I love the dentist, by the way. And right when I walked in, there was a lady waiting, and she was so happy. She was like, "Oh, good morning. How are you?" Now she didn't work there; she was just another patient. And it was all about like professionalism, but it was so welcoming. So really, check yourself when you go in. Like, am I the role model? How am I reflecting that professionalism? When people walk up to me, am I greeting them? Am I not greeting them? Am I looking at them? Do I have confidence? Am I looking at them in the eye? It's just like you said, demonstrate respect, confidence, personal discipline. It really strengthens that professional presence. One thing I recently learned, and I thought this was really interesting, is that when you cheers someone in different countries in Europe, you have to like cheers their glass, they want you to look them in the eye at the same time and smile. And I thought, wow, we don't really always practice that in the United States. We just kind of like cheers, we drink or whatever. But it's a confidence thing, but it's also like they want to know, like, are you real? Are you authentic? And so those are the things that we want you to practice. And so you can see on this behavior chart, it really does list like honesty and respect. And it just goes through a gamut of stuff, but it does bring in other things like communication and dress. So all of those things are important. When you talk out loud, there's a lot of nonverbal communication going on as well. So they're looking at all of that. And so we want to make sure that you present yourself the best way. Like I said, you want to lean in positive. So I really like this slide. Okay, questions? We're gonna move on. But you can always ask questions though.
Okay, punctuality. So, I mean, I've been at interviews where I've been in the line in the queue, and then there are people that's supposed to go before me. And if you're 1 minute, I mean, depending on what type of job industry you're in, but if you're even a minute late, they're like next, and then you're either put at the bottom or you're just X'd off the list. So it depends, but punctuality, for me, time is a form of respect, right? So you come early, I was brought up either early or you're late. There is no on time, right? So then that's the way you should practice that for an interview. You should always be there before. Now, I understand interviews have evolved to actually include online components as well. So I think about 5 minutes before you should be signed in. Now, whether they let you in the room or not, that's up to them, but you should be there and you should be ready. I know that, Michelle has always preached that you should be there at least 15 minutes early. You want to go to a restroom, get comfortable with the area, stuff like this as well. But punctuality is very, very important because if you're late, that's already part of your first impression, right? And you have to compensate for that a little bit later. Now, of course, if something happens or a life situation happens, it does happen. But you should be able to call the person you're interviewing with and let them know. And during the meeting, of course, you have to respect the other people's schedule as well, right? Especially if it's more than one interviewer, because they had to coordinate that meeting with you. Did you guys have anything else to add to that?
This can fall under a lot of things. It can fall under going to a networking event. It can fall under interviewing. It can fall under such a variety of things, or just having a meeting, whatever the case is. But one thing I always want to share is that, like Rose said, if you're on time, you're just a little late. So just arrive a little bit early, because people's time is money, and it just shows a form of respect. I think if anything, there's going to be things that will pop up that you don't expect. Like, let's say it's on the 5th floor and you get there and the elevator's not working. You're like, okay, I now have to log up 5 flights, which is not, I mean, I would struggle a little bit, but I would also be breathing really heavy. And I don't know that I want to necessarily go into a meeting doing that, and then you're carrying all your stuff or whatever the case is. It's always like respectful communication is just being there on time. So be punctual and participate. So, and then if it's going to go over, just say, hey, I realize this is going to go over. Let's go ahead and let's reschedule and do a follow-up. Or if everyone says, no, we can stay for a little bit, then let it stay. When it comes to Zoom meetings, just go on at least 5 minutes before, 3 to 5 minutes before, just so that you can sit in the waiting room. It shows that you're there. Please, one thing to understand too, if you haven't updated your Zoom, please do so. Please, please, please. If you haven't been on in a while, it will keep updating, and that happens to all of us. So I'm good. Any questions? We're gonna move to the next slide. Oh, and there we go. There's virtual meetings.
So I think, as Michelle was saying, One of the things that I appreciate is when people display their name in a virtual meeting. So you can go up, hit the three little dots and rename so that you have the correct name. It's not iPhone 3 or your partner's name or something silly. So you can change that. So thinking about those first impressions, you only have one chance to make a first impression. And like Ro was saying, it's very quick. It's like 10 seconds, if not less than that. And so also thinking about what's your background. You don't want your bed in the background or, clothes hanging behind you. You want to make sure these are things you test out ahead of time. So you want to make sure that it's a neutral background, it's good lighting. We meet with a lot of people and sometimes the blinds behind them, the sun coming in, they're all black and you just see light behind them. And so thinking about that, what is the lighting? Does my sound work? Am I hooked up to the right speakers? And then when you're in a virtual meeting, the solid color is much easier. So I know we like to wear fun things and exciting things. And again, I think it's also thinking about the industry you're in. Obviously, we meet with a lot of students that are in the art majors, creative side. So theirs is going to be different than someone who is in business or finance. That's going to be more of that color attire, more business professional. Background noises. I had a cat that used to love joining my meetings. And so I would have to lock the cat outside the room and make those adjustments. So again, thinking about you're respecting their time by preparing in advance so that you have the full amount of time in your meeting and you're not disrupted with something else.
A couple things I wanted to mention. Oh, sorry, Rob.
On the question.
We do have the interview room and you can reserve that and use it if you feel like you don't have a quiet space. And then sound and volume is really important in this flow in your speech. I'm a fast talker, I know that, but really the sound is hard. So if it test it where you don't have your earbuds on versus your earbuds, right? I want you to do both of those and have someone listen. And then just try to slow down a little bit because virtual, the technology part, a lot of people have like they have like an auditory processing disorder that we just aren't used to that process. I know I have it where if the digital world is on and then I have in person, my head can't process both of those. And so a lot of times I'll ask people to repeat. So just slow down a little bit as much as you can and be cognizant of background noises. But I can also share that when people are gardening or doing other things or the trash truck is going by, you all can't hear it. It's just that I can. But again, it reflects how I'm hearing you. So there's a lot of things to consider during virtual meetings.
And one of the most important things in addition to all of these is also your speed of your internet. Make sure you have a place where you actually have a consistent speed because every time that you are in an interview and you're lagging or they're asking questions and you're answering and it's not timed well, then it does affect your impression, unfortunately. So you want to make sure, at CGU, you can use the library, you can use the internet here as well. And you can always blame the internet here if there's a situation instead of, you're at home relying on your own internet speed. So make sure that it's consistent. And you want to test it out as well, because sometimes when you have a screen open showing you and the employer, plus maybe you have another screen open or something, it can slow stuff down. So you just want to make sure that you go through it a couple of times to be comfortable and to be confident in the speed of your internet as well.
And oh yes, go ahead.
I would say using the library is kind of last resort because everyone wants you to be quiet in the library and talks a lot. Patrons might just stare at you. They feel very.
Yeah, you can also reserve a room. Yeah, thank you. No, that's perfect. One of the things really quickly, we went to this series of workshops this last week and the person that was presenting with the other presenter, her name was professional development for all four workshops, and it was driving me crazy. So please change your name. That's her name each time. I was like, oh my gosh. I can go through this one really quick because we do need to close up in a short time, but you can always ask questions and we'll send this to you. So with phone calls, when you do initiate yourself, please identify yourself. Like, hi Jane, this is Michelle Ponce. I applied for the blah, blah, blah position or whatever the case is. So whenever I called the insurance company the other day and I was like, hi Miranda, this is Michelle Ponce. I'm a client there. So you always want to say your name so they understand the nature of why you're calling. And if not, like have someone answer your calls. I don't always do that. I just like to take my own calls, but always return calls. It's like always returning emails. Please try to do that within 24 to 48 hours. And then if you do have to take a call during a meeting, this is really important. Please let them know ahead of time. So sometimes I'll start a meeting, I'll be like, I just want to let you know my phone may ring, I have the doctor's calling or whatever the case is, right? So just be transparent, however you want to say it. You do not have to share what that meeting is. You could just say, I'm expecting a call, an important call. I know it's going to come during this time frame. Just want to give you a heads up that I may be stepping out. Right? Welcome. Hi, Sarah. That was some fast. Oh, that's okay. It was really first. Okay.
Another thing is if you're going to be calling, it's probably best you have kind of a script in hand, at least bullet points of what you want to say, because sometimes when you're calling, you forget to say certain things. I know our student workers, when they're going to answer the phones, they actually have a list of what they're supposed to ask for. The name, the return phone number, what's the best time to call you back. So it's nice to have this little script because nowadays a lot of people, they don't want to communicate through calls. They want to communicate through texting or messaging as well. So you may not have as much frequency with professional calling, right? So you just want to make sure you do have somewhere written or somewhere you can see it maybe on your phone where you're going to give certain information. Just like Michelle said, maybe the reason why you're calling, the information, the contact information as well. So that's important because they're going to remember and they're going to have that recorded, whatever you said, right? You've probably seen a lot of TV shows where they left bad recordings and left a bad impression. So you want to make sure that you're leaving a good impression as well.
I think too, something to think about with phone calls, like Rob mentioned, sometimes that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
I know my daughter hates phone calls. However, if you are talking with an employer, or let's say you have a school project with an employer, and their preferred way of communicating is by phone, you need to be contacting them by phone, even though you may not feel comfortable. And I think the strategies Ro gave are excellent. Prepare ahead of time in your mind, like what would be my script as I call them? What am I wanting to say? How am I going to say it? Practice it as if you were going into an interview, because you want to present yourself professionally. Even if it's a school project, it's never, that could be a potential future employer. And so you need to look at these opportunities as kind of that audition time. I know with internships, school projects, that's an audition because a lot of employers are using those internships and those projects to see what type of person is this student? Is this a student I would hire? Do they have the skills that I'm looking for? Is this someone that I could train in more of the specifics of our company? However, they have these soft skills, they have the interpersonal skills and that communication.
So different types of communication. So obviously, we just talked previous slide about verbal communication with phone calls, right? And also when you're interviewing, let's say it's virtual, of course, you're going to be speaking as well. But there's also that non-verbal part as well. Before we move into nonverbal, your grammar, the way you talk, the way you present yourself, the speed, the tone in which you speak, I think those are all parts of the impression that you're going to give. And because you're giving this impression either on Zoom or on a phone, or even in messaging, it's really important how you're saying things, not just what you say, but how you say it. You can practice with AI and everything on what to say, but it's not going to teach you how to say it. Right now, it's not as advanced as it could be. So that is something you should practice. Mock interviews. Our office does conduct mock interviews with students as well. So you can practice your answer, what you want to say, And also, am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking too slow? Am I making good eye contact? All of that included in the verbal and nonverbal communication, those are actually really important because it's really hard to look at somebody in the eye when you're looking at a computer or a camera. So you want to practice that and see how you look as well. For nonverbal, that body posture and how you're looking, and I believe Michelle said like lean in, physically as well, lean in a little bit. It shows that there's some engagement. Also, if somebody is doing something, you may want to mirror what they're doing physically as well. It shows there's a psychological side to this where it's showing that you're interested and you're mirroring what they're interested in as well. You guys want to talk about the technology part, the email?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. Yeah. We all know that there's different ways that people write. So be cognizant of your electronic messaging, whether that be by text, whether it be on Teams, whether it be on, any of the other platforms, and then definitely on email. So refrain from certain things like all caps and just start it professionally, end it professionally, and then, make sure that you're clear, it's short, and you get to the point. And let them know why you're doing it. Like, hi, Deborah. I wanted to follow up with regards to, I don't know, the resume rescue workshop on October 22nd. These are the things that still need left to do. If you can bullet point, we love bullet points because they feel like they're not paragraphs. And so we can be like, we have to do this, this, and this. Let me know how I can help. Let's touch base next week. Have a great day. But I think that a lot of times you need to also keep it where there's an intentional response. So you ask them a question in it so that you get a response back if you need a response back. So keep that, but make it really professional. You're going to find that sometimes you feel more comfortable with your team, but remember that anything that is digital is documented. Anything that's digital is documented. And so you got to be really careful with that. And so you just want to make sure that you aren't using profanity or doing anything that's inappropriate because it will come back and probably not the most positive way. So these are all different forms of communication up here, but they all hold the same value, right? In different ways. So always keep it in mind. It's not just verbal. Okay.
Sometimes it's better to have a phone conversation, or if you're in the same place to, hey, do you have a minute? Let's meet. I have something I want to talk to you about. Have that conversation first and then follow up with the email. Because oftentimes we don't realize the tone of what we're writing, or it may be we didn't have that intention, but the other person is reading it as a certain tone that they feel maybe they're offended by, or they feel you were being, too mean or too nice or whatever. But sometimes it's better to have that face to face or even via Zoom or Teams, that you can then see the whole nonverbal as well as the verbal to help you understand the conversation, and so that there's not those misunderstandings.
Michelle had a question.
In terms of nonverbal facial expressions, I know I tend to have the most blank face sometimes, or just like it looks mean. I know that, but is there a way to like practice how to just like gently smile, I guess, to make sure it looks natural? Because for me, just staring at somebody is more natural than actually trying to even smile. Because like for me, I know like I don't want to come off as fake. And if I'm like laughing too much or smiling too much, I know I come off as like this is not me as a person. So is there a way to practice, I guess, like the nonverbal facial expressions instead of like an interview, whether it be through Zoom or in person?
Yeah, so the question, if you couldn't hear, it was like Michelle had mentioned that she has like a plain face, right? Like she doesn't necessarily smile all the time, but it can come off. People read it, right? They can read it the way that they want. So she wants to know, is there a way to practice? I think with anything, we do have to practice, right? I will use the example, like back in the day, I'm like 90. Back in the day, we used to put period and then we hit the space bar twice. I know that it seems like, how is that related? But I have been practicing after I hit the period, I put one space because it changed over the years. And it's been driving me crazy. So I agree with you. So maybe it's when you're in a space, that just a little smile, you don't have to go overboard because it's not you. Don't make something non-authentic in a sense, right? But what you can do is just practice with your friends always, and eventually it will become a little bit more organic and natural. It's just like anything else, but I agree you know, if you know that when you are with people, it may be that that you're fully listening, right? But right now, your eyes opened up and you smiled a little bit. It's a whole different feeling for me. But yeah, I mean, I can't, besides practicing and being cognizant of your space is important. Did you?
I have a suggestion, so I have that issue too, and there's usually a term for it, but I'm not gonna say it.
You're gonna say it?
I would say too, it was my topic nowadays, so then what I think of is something funny, like a joke,
Mm-hmm.
or like a cute animal, or something that's meaningful to you, or think of something positive about that person you're looking at, and then you're gonna smile, because you're gonna feel like gratitude or something like that. It'll be
That's great. Yes. No. Okay. Yeah, I can think of capybaras because they make me smile. Any questions online? Okay.
There's
There's one in the chat. So I know we're reaching our time, but we'll see if anyone needs to walk in.
I think too, like Michelle said earlier, you can lean in, you can nod your head.
that's a
So
good one.
even if you're not smiling, you're leaning in, you're nodding your head, so they know you're paying attention.
And then Brian said that he posts like a smiley face
Oh,
near the
I love it.
webcam. For virtual interviews, but if we're in person.
Oh,
Yeah.
and final point just for when you're speaking, emailing, emojis are not professional.
Oh, yes.
really?
No.
No, yeah, so when you're, now again, it depends if it's coming from top to bottom. Let's say your boss uses emojis.
You can
then
use my back.
emojis.
Oh,
But if you're the first one introducing it, it's a little, you don't know how they're gonna take it.
Or you don't know that person. Please don't use emojis if you don't know that person. Like I send emojis to my team all the time because we know each other. But please don't do that. It's not professional. We want it to be. But once you know them, it's different. Yeah.
what about when we receive an email, like from the school or from somebody, and it's like a.
And you did a little.
And I want to respond like,
Yeah.
thank you, blah, 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 that's
I
everything.
do that.
Put it on heart or.
Yeah, I do that.
It's on.
Well, that's fine because you're not trying to this is not an employer-employee relationship, right? It's like,
Yeah.
so this is more for like
It's the
that,
relationship.
that professionalism part. But I do know some people that they will not emojis because they're afraid people are gonna take it the wrong way. Like, oh, you don't want to spend time, So everybody, you can see already there's another layer of complexity when it comes to that. But if you have a friendly relationship and that teacher, oh, my kid's going somewhere, thumbs up, that's great. If that's acceptable, that's fine. You just have to realize where it's acceptable and where it's not. Yeah.
I think what we're gonna do, because we are out of time and we need to open the space, you are gonna receive these, but if any of you wanna make an appointment with us to kind of review any of this, we're more than happy to. You will see a follow-up email of our next event on Wednesday, October 22nd. But wait, we have something else between. What was it?
Oh, October 7th, the neurodivergent.
Oh, the neurodivergent, yes. It's a neurodivergent workshop for networking. So I'm missing all of them. I tell you, I'm glitching so much. So that one's going to be a lot of fun as well. We're going to talk about like how to strategize the networking world for neurodivergent, but also just for all of us. Because networking is going to become crucial right now, especially with the shifting economy. It doesn't look good, and every day it starts to get worse. So, but we will definitely be available. Keep in mind that all of our workshops will have food and chocolate. So we would like for you to join us in person if possible. And so Sarah, yeah, thank you, Sarah. So she's putting those up there. Yep. And then if there's any questions that you have, just email us. You can grab it right off of these QR codes. So we want to thank you for your time today. We do need to be cognizant that the faculty want to come in for their next class. So I hope you have a beautiful Tuesday, everybody.